All right. Hello, everyone. Will Weatherall here at your service. I'm the GM of Cyber at Latitude IT, and today I would like to talk to you about how to prepare for interview success. I have been fortunate enough to have been recruiting since 2004. During that time, I must have presided over thousands of interviews. I never actually counted, but it's a lot. And I would like to share with you now what I've seen work in interviews. So here we go. First of all, preparation. I think it's probably impossible to over-prepare for an interview. In fact, I'd go so far as to say the three most important things for interview success are preparation, preparation, preparation. Look, preparation is absolutely key, and if you're prepared, it shows. And a client that sees a candidate, or an employer who sees a candidate, an employer that sees a candidate who has prepared a lot is always impressed, because it says to the employer, I am genuinely interested in your organization, and I am being discerning in my job search, and I have specifically selected your company, Mr. Employer, and this opportunity for the next chapter in my career. So preparation is key. If you haven't prepared properly, it shows. If you have prepared properly, it shows. And it is absolutely crucial in terms of setting the tone and direction for the rest of the interview. So what do we mean by preparation? Preparation means a number of things. First of all, you need to go down the rabbit hole on the company that you're going to be interviewing with. You need to consume as much information online as you can regarding that organization, not just regarding the organization, but also the interviewers. Familiarize yourself with their website, read their annual reports, research the interviewers on LinkedIn, look at the kinds of things they post about, look at the kinds of presentations that they make. Do they blog? What kind of, have they spoken at conferences? Can you get any insight into what's important to them, what makes them tick? You should really have a sense that by the time you actually enter the interview, you should almost feel like you already know the interviewer, even before you've met them. That's the kind of research that I'm talking about. One of the most common questions you will be asked in an interview is, what do you know about our company and why do you want to work for us? So it's absolutely crucial that you have compelling answers to those questions. They want to hear not just your professional reasons for wanting to work for them, but what is your personal affinity for their company and their brand. That's very important, the human side. After all, it's a people business, people by people. So it's important that you bring a personal motivation as well as a professional motivation into the interview. They're also going to ask you how you see your career evolving. What direction do you see your career going in? What's the big picture? So I would advise that you give this some thought and that you speak very transparently in the interview about this. Because that people are not, when a company hires you, they're not just thinking about you fulfilling this specific role now. They're thinking about the kind of career path they can offer you, the growth trajectory that they can offer you long term. To prepare some intelligent, insightful questions for the interviewer. An interview is not just for the company to interview you, it's for you to interview the company. You have to do your due diligence just as they have to do theirs, so that you make sure that this is the right opportunity for you. So, insightful questions, interview them as much as they interview you. Also, when you do that, it creates a much more dynamic experience. It turns the interview into an intelligent, two-way conversation between industry peers and avoids one of those sort of Spanish Inquisition type interviews where it's just rapid fire questions at the candidate. It turns it into a much more interesting experience, a conversation, as I said, between industry peers. Next thing, which is really key, is in the days leading up to the interview, it's very important that you read the job description several times, really familiarize yourself with the job description. You should really know back to front and inside out. And the same, I would say, of your own CV. You know, some of us, like me, for example, are a bit long in the tooth. We've been working for many years, and we've done a lot of things throughout our career. And unless you're in the habit of regular interviews, sometimes we don't remember everything that we've done or not in the right level of detail that is required for an interview. So I would suggest that in the days leading up to the interview, that you read your CV several times so that all of your experiences are fresh in your mind and you're able to converse fluently with the interviewer about them. We've taken care of preparation, now let's talk about presentation. My mother always used to say that we only ever have one chance to make a good first impression. So presentation is key. Presentation includes, if it's a face-to-face interview or if it's a video conference, you should always make sure that you're wearing formal business attire, even if you know that the dress code of the organization is casual. It shows respect for your employer, and it creates a good first impression, I would say. That's very important. Also, a big smile, lots of eye contact, firm handshake. Make sure if you're sitting during the interview that you're sitting up straight, that you are using your body language, you're using hand gestures, you're communicating. Remember, 70% of communication is non-verbal, so don't slouch in your chair, sit up straight. It tells the interviewer that you're engaged and that you're a dynamic person with energy, and that kind of energy in an interview is infectious. And companies really want energetic, dynamic people, so it's important that you convey that in the interview, whether that is in person or online. I always suggest that if you are in an interview, you have a copy of your CV printed out for ease of reference, and you also have a copy of the job description printed out for ease of reference. It's also handy to have a notepad and a pen so that you can take note of things as you go. If there's something that the interviewer mentions that you want to loop back on later, that you want to come back to later, you can take notes. I think it really demonstrates, again, that you're taking this very, very seriously. So I think that is key from a presentation perspective. And probably one of the best ways to demonstrate respect is to make sure that you're on time for your interview. Always leave earlier than you need to. Make sure that you've researched, if you're doing an in-person interview, make sure you've researched how to actually get there, and allow at least half an hour more than it says you're going to need on Google, because people can take wrong turns, you can get off the train at the wrong station. There's lots of things that can go wrong, so always make sure you build in a margin for human error and you arrive early. And look, if you're really, really early, you don't have to let the client know that you're there. You can wait until sort of 10 minutes before and then announce that you've arrived to reception. So it doesn't look like you're overly keen, if you know what I mean. Now let's talk about communication style, the way in which you deliver your performance. I like to think of an interview as a performance. So your communication style, I think probably the best piece of advice I could say on communication style is, when you are interviewing, whether it's in person or online, treat your interviewers as though they were stakeholders in the business. What do I mean by that? I mean, be concise in your answers and avoid waffling. So sometimes you might wonder, how much detail does the interviewer want in the answer to your question? The best way to approach this is, when they ask you a question, answer it succinctly using one example from your professional experience to illustrate your answer. And then you can say to the interviewer, does that answer your question, Mr. Smith, or would you like me to provide further examples? And then it's up to the interviewer to let you know whether or not they'd like more examples. They may, for certain questions, want more details than they do for others. So there's nothing wrong with answering the question succinctly, illustrating your answer with one example from your professional experience, and then asking the interviewer if they'd like you to go into further detail. It also demonstrates effective time management. Very important as well is active listening. Active listening. Really listen to what the interviewer is asking, and if the question is a little bit ambiguous, you're not quite sure if you've grasped what they are getting at, there's nothing wrong with saying, thanks very much, John. If I've understood you correctly, what you're asking me is this. That way you're just clarifying the question before you answer it. My mum always used to say to me when I was at high school, before I had an exam, she'd always say, read the question. So very important, make sure you understand what the interviewer is actually asking before you answer it. I've talked about making a good first impression. It's also very important to make an excellent last impression. So at the end of the interview, when you are concluding or when the interviewer is wrapping things up, ask the interviewer if there's anything else they would like to ask, or if there's any further information you can provide in relation to some of the answers that you've already given. It just gives the interviewer a chance to reflect on the interview, perhaps look at their notes and make sure that they have asked everything they want to. And also at the end, big smile again and thank the interviewer very much for their time and their interest, and that you look forward to hearing from them.